Hi, welcome to the Mindset. This is our very first episode of the podcast. I'm Christopher Feltner, training and performance architect for Ukeru Systems and Grafton Integrated Health Network. And with me,
I'm Kim Sanders. I'm one of the executive vice presidents here at Grafton, as well as the president of Ukeru Systems. So it's great to be with you.
So today we're going to be talking about the thing that's obviously hitting all of us right now, the COVID-19. As providers, as trainers for other facilities as well, we've had to do a lot of adaptation through all of this. So for you, Kim, what have been some of the changes, both work and personal, that have hit you with COVID-19?
Oh, there's been a lot. So, if you think of personal stuff, just the not being able to be around all of my family that I want to.
Right.
We got the immediate family sort of hunkered down, but not being able to go visit my grandmother and my mom, those kind of things have been really tough. But we're adjusting. Yeah. So, and here at work, at Grafton and Ukeru, of course, it's really been a big change for us here at Ukeru, just because we're grounded. We're not, we're not on the road. We're not able to take flights and be with all the great people that we normally get to meet and train.
Yeah, that's been all of it's been a weird change. My wife, she just had her birthday in April and we couldn't do anything. Her parents did bring by some food for us, but even then we had to stay 6 feet apart. They didn't come in the house. We talked on the porch for a short bit. I haven't been able to go to my parents' house in a long time. That's been a big change. The travel obviously is a big thing that's been different. Usually for training trips, we're going 2, 3, sometimes 4 trips a month in some cases, and suddenly you're home, right? First you're in office, then, well, we don't want everybody in office, and now you work from home. So that's been an interesting change as well. For both me as well as my wife, who is also home. So that's been pretty good though, because she keeps herself busy with her artwork while I'm doing, the work that I need to do during the day. So
right. I'm sure we probably could both talk about pros and cons.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, as nice as it's been to have a break from constant travel, I do find myself itching to get back out there and training or working with people again. So it'll be great once this stuff lifts to whatever degree it's going to.
Yeah, me too.
So something that we don't always think about, we think about it, but you don't see this so much on mainstream news outlets. You hear a lot of talk about heroes right now.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are working in hospitals, law enforcement, fire department, and everything else. But there's definitely a big piece of this hero situation that's not being discussed. Our direct care workers, the folks that are serving vulnerable populations day in, day out, around the clock, that, mainstream society doesn't really think about, much less talk about. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think there's been different, situations that we faced as a country before, against in my time here at Grafton, that have affected Grafton, and things that have affected Grafton before, maybe where we had bad storms, or where we had 3 foot of snow, or those kind of things, where we have been able to say that our staff have been heroes, and that it's during those times when you really see who you can count on. But this one's probably, I'd say, the most, it's super scary, but probably the most tragic kind of situation that we've ever faced, at least in my lifetime. And again, we're asking people who are, number one, trying to protect themselves and their family,
right,
to come in here and sort of expose themselves in a sense, and trying to do everything possible to keep themselves safe. We're trying to keep them safe. But just like a hospital, and again, I don't want to take anything away from doctors, nurses, all those people.
Right.
But we have to stay open. We have a sense of responsibility for the people that we take care of and who we are treating. And so we can't say we're just closing down. We have to keep going. And once again, it's just shown that, the heroes of Grafton, there's a lot of heroes here. It's our direct care staff. It's our nursing staff. I mean, heck, it's the people in our cafeteria that just have to come in and, keep providing food and cooking. I mean, there's a lot of heroes around here. And like you said, it's not necessarily what you see in the newspaper or what you see on TV. Yep. It's sort of, the unspoken heroes for sure.
Well, and even some other services at a provider like ours or other places, the housekeeping staff,
absolutely,
maintenance staff who have to take extra precautions and additional workload of more sanitizing procedures and things like that.
Yeah.
And for us and other providers, another challenge is, like everyone else, where's the toilet paper?
Right.
Right.
Right. The Clorox wipes and the
right.
toilet paper and the hand sanitizer. I mean, we've even had a local distillery donate right. hand sanitizer to us that's, sort of changed their whole operation. Mm-hmm. To help people out, which it's amazing. It's sort of that goodness you get to see in people.
Right. I know last night we were watching the news and they had a story with, the high up of Clorox. People are wondering, are they still going to make the wipes? When are we going to see the wipes again? And they showed footage of inside their biggest manufacturing plant. They're basically like, look, we are constantly making and putting this out, but as soon as right. it's out, it's gone.
Right. Right, because just think about how they're getting used. I mean, again, mm-hmm. people are just so much more mindful. I mean, everybody's wiping everything, and mm-hmm. If you talk
literally.
to people, literally everything's getting wiped. But and when you do that, if you even talk to people about using hand sanitizer, people are constantly now fighting their hands getting cracked open and dry, and just because I guess we've never been this clean before.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely been crazy. It's definitely been crazy. And then I think another aspect when we're talking about heroes in our line of work in our field, parents.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. When you think about day students who normally would come to a provider like Grafton or others for day services, now they're at home with families a lot of times, and parents are trying to figure that whole equation out. How do I teach? How do I occupy, keep them engaged and happy when they can't go do what their normal routine would be? That's tough.
Absolutely. Trust me. Every day when I look through my Facebook and I see people that are on there and putting videos and pictures of how they're teaching their kids and how they're keeping their kids busy, and I am so grateful that my children are adults. I am so grateful because I think it's so hard, but I love looking at those things, and I love seeing like people's creativity. We have a staff person here, Zach Crawford, his wife, oh my gosh, his wife Lauren, I feel like I look at Facebook and I look to see what she's doing, because she's doing the coolest stuff with their kids.
Yeah, those boys are busy too.
They are busy. They are busy. And, and again, if you even think about our teachers here at Grafton, people might think, oh, school's closed, Grafton teachers must be home. No, our Grafton teachers are here. They are here teaching our residential students for a portion of the day, but then they are teaching our day students. I mean, they have divvied out schedules, and it's just crazy the amount of work that, I can honestly tell you, our teachers are actually working more, because there's so much more planning, because you don't have a group in a classroom. You got kids home and here and there. And so you basically are trying to give almost like individual instruction. It's been incredible, the workload for our teachers and our aides. And again, I'll just go back to, oh my goodness, when I see some of the videos, I saw one of our teachers, Dana, on a video doing pirate yoga.
And I saw some photos of that. Yeah.
And I saw our music therapist, Frederica, who is just always happy. Just on a video, and we've heard from parents who have said, that right there made their whole day go better because their kid got to see their teacher, got that all that enthusiasm with Frederica playing the guitar. And so again, it's all the goodness starts coming out.
So for anyone who maybe isn't as familiar with our field and the individuals that get served, like, why is this such a big deal? Why is it so hard for someone with emotional, intellectual challenges, behavioral challenges during this time?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is you got to think about just how hard is this on all of us. Like, just don't, if you take that, if that level of hardness is here, ramp
Right.
it up times 10,
Yep.
because you may have someone who maybe they don't understand what's happening. You may have a child that, because we're trying to keep everyone safe, and we hated to have to do it, but that we can't allow visitors because we can't take the chance that one person who doesn't even know that they're sick. That's what also makes us crazy, is you can be, asymptomatic, and you could come into our site and infect a ton of kids that are living close quarters. And so you might have kids that don't understand why their parents can't come visit them or can't go home, that maybe every other weekend they go home for a visit, that they don't. So you have that challenge. And then think about this. Think about, we have been for a few weeks now, actually, asking our staff to wear masks.
Yep.
So you have children that, in most cases, the majority, have some type of communication challenge, and you have covered someone's face, and you have lost all of, that sort of body language, facial expression. Sometimes it's even hard to hear. So you've put that challenge on top of everything. So, and again, across the board, cabin fever. You got kids that
Right.
are cooped up in a house, that can't be going like we typically have them in the community so much, and doing all kinds of fun, exciting stuff. Even though we're trying to do that as much as we can in a house, even for us, being in a house, man, after a while, you just want to get out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Maybe even looking from how we've been doing training, staff now wearing gloves and masks. I get emails frequently from, other providers saying, how do we keep up staff certification while maintaining CDC guidelines? This has been a big change for everybody, on all
Yes.
levels. So let me ask you, COVID-19, is this a one and done, or do you think this is a recurring thing like every other flu? Is this our measles, mumps, and rubella?
You know what? If I knew that answer and I could tell you that I knew it for sure, I'd be like winning some kind of Nobel Prize or something. Right? Because I
Right.
think we don't know. I think what we hope is that even if it does end up being a strand of flu that comes back seasonally, that we have a vaccine or something, something like we have with what we would consider a typical flu. But I don't know. We need something. If you think about this, regardless how this goes, if it comes back, if it's a one and done, if you think about everything that's happened over like the last couple months, it's interesting. Do you think about like what really probably has changed forever? Like what probably won't go back ever in our life? Sometimes I do think that, I don't think that everything has changed forever, of course, but
Right.
I think there's some things that this has pushed us to sort of, be uncomfortable that may never go back.
Well, it's interesting because before all of this, I feel like so many people spend their time on social media, even though they're free to go everywhere. Now that everyone's restricted to stay at home, now everyone's on social media complaining that they can't go out.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I know in the area where I live, on days that are beautiful, like even like little parks, even little like hiking trails that technically are closed, people are like parking in areas everywhere, and people now want to go out and hike, where, you know, if this would have been a year ago when that's perfectly open and it's totally at your disposal, you might see 2 or 3 cars there. So it really is. It's that thing that, is it sometimes we always want what we can't have? Or I don't know. Like, is somebody teaching us a lesson? Sometimes I think about that. Like, you know, were we getting so far off track on certain things that sort of nature has brought us back? You
I
know?
think that's all a really nice way of saying we're never happy.
Maybe.
Right.
I think about that. I do think about that. Like, you know, and again, I mean, you've probably seen online or whatever, and I feel like I have to always be careful nowadays, especially because I sometimes feel like I don't even know exactly what to believe. So let's just pretend this is true. I think it's true, but you've seen pictures of, like, you know, the waterways through um, big cities in Italy that are now, the water is so clear. Or you've seen pictures, you know, in LA where, like, the smog is not as bad and things are so clear, and, you know, that you have to wonder, like, I don't know, is this some kind of wake up call? Like, is somebody, I don't know, are we getting pushed to maybe try to take a pause and really think about what's important? I mean, I know, again, if you think about family connection, it's really done that for me. Like, when you don't, when I can't take for granted driving 3 miles to my mom's and my grandmother's and just walking in my grandma's house and, you know, giving them a hug, or, like, man, you know, whoever thought the day would come that I couldn't do that?
That's true.
So,
That's true. That's something I haven't really thought about. You know, you mentioned some of the environmental changes through all of this. It would be interesting to see whether or not there are groups who will study what the effect of this has been on the environment.
mhm,
You know, because there are a lot of people, you know, I'm not informed enough to really give my thought one way or another, but I do know there's a lot of people who don't believe that climate change and our effect on the environment is real. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of data comes out of this.
right.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, some other everyday changes we see. I mean, something we like to do on training trips, go to the movies. Movie theaters are closed right now.
Right.
You know, I know some are looking at starting to open here in the next month or two, but that's been a big change, you know.
Mhm.
And we've seen some movies that were supposed to come out in the theater have gone straight to video on demand through streaming services, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it, especially here in the U.S. Think about even bigger scale things, you know, like Disney has been closed for so long. If you think about sports, you know, sports stadiums and arenas and places where
Yep.
you have, like, larger concerts, you know, I mean, I'm sitting here today thinking, oh, that'll come back. But I have to tell you, I mean, I'm hoping it comes back,
Hmm.
but I don't know if we really know.
Well, and I think a lot of uncertainty is around a couple of things. You know, there's all this talk about vaccines and antibodies and all these tests and things, but is COVID-19 a recurring thing like the flu, or is it more of a thing like measles, where you
Right.
can get one vaccination that takes care of it? Or is it like the flu, where every year you're constantly trying to figure out what strain of this is out there?
Right. Yeah,
And
that's
then,
going to be interesting.
and then also, I don't know if you feel like this, but I feel like there's a lot of states feeling pressured to open sooner than they should.
I mean, there's no doubt that there's pressure. I mean, I just even know, again, in you know, the small area that I live, I mean, it depends on who you're talking to. Because, I mean, I think in general, everybody wants everybody to be safe. But then you talk to people who are running small businesses or little restaurants, or, you know, that this could be it for them.
Yeah,
They could be done. They may not be able to open back up if this keeps going on so long.
that's
So
true.
it's really tough.
Yeah, I saw where I think Gold's Gym is fired for bankruptcy. Uh, there's a J. Crew.
Oh yeah, a lot of clothing
So
places. Yeah, a lot of clothing places. Yeah, so I mean, to me, it's going to be interesting to see, because I was listening to the news and they were naming all these like clothing stores, and I was thinking, well, that's like an entire mall. So will malls come back? I mean, has this pushed everybody to do more shopping online? Like, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, again, if you just think about technology, I mean, how we're even just sitting here today, like there's so many things that I wonder, will it ever come back?
well, I think in terms of clothing shopping, if you don't have physical stores, how do you get your size right?
You make your best guess and then you return it.
I
You
don't know.
return it.
It's like for me, I'm pretty accurate as far as pants and shirt, but shoes vary so much depending on the brand.
Right.
Sometimes it's size 13, sometimes it's 14, a couple of brands it's size 15, and I never know until I
Right.
actually put it on my foot.
Right.
So, but then again, I mean, there's a commercial for some um, high-end eyeglass place
I
where
saw that.
they have the app where you could see what that pair
Yeah,
would look like on your face. I mean, maybe they'll come up with something like that for your body for clothing.
maybe.
I don't know. Maybe they send a creepy person to your house to take your measurements,
Right.
whatever it may be.
Right.
So I definitely think that this is going to spur an advancement in technology.
I think so too.
You
I
know,
think so too. Because I mean, just think about schools. I mean, I think most people, especially when you're talking about like grade schools, they want kids, most people want kids to be more traditional in a classroom around other kids, all the social stuff you get with other kids. I mean, I think most people would argue that the learning that happens with a classroom with a teacher in it is so much better than, workbooks and packets and, those kind of little exercises that are happening right now. But at the same time, I mean, for me, when you think about more advanced learning like colleges and stuff, I mean, there's something about the college experience on campus, but I just have to think that people are getting so used to doing this kind of, Zoom and those kind of things virtually, that they're getting comfortable with it already, even after just a couple months. That I don't know if there's going to be a lot, especially maybe more adult learners that are going to want to not just be home learning. I think it could change things forever. That could be another thing that ends up changed forever.
yeah, because I mean, if you look at online collegiate studies and certifications and everything that you can get, I mean, if you can do that for a lot of advanced courses, you certainly could do it for like general studies pretty easy.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I really wonder I mean, is this the first big or second step in the elimination of physical school attendance?
Right.
I mean, it's hard to
Well,
tell.
you talk school attendance, but think about this: will we ever go back to shaking hands?
If I'm honest, I could probably count the amount of times on one hand where someone has been down for a handshake in the past year.
Really?
Like so many people fist bump.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
I feel like there's so many people now when I stick out my hand for a handshake before this, they're kind of like, oh, we're doing this.
Right.
Like some things just I think have already started changing, you know.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
or maybe it's me. Maybe I got it all wrong. No one wants to shake my hand. So, so where do we go from here? So let's say best case scenario, all of this goes away. What did we learn?
I mean, again, it goes to me, it's just not to take things for granted, you know, especially things around your family, people that you care about, you want to take care of. Like, there's so many things we take for granted. And again, I think there's a lot of freedoms we take for granted, especially living in the United States, that, you know, we don't really think about that. You know, this whole idea that, you know, someone's going to tell me where I can go and where I can't go. And again, I personally think all with the best intentions, all with the good intentions of keeping everybody safe. I mean, I hope we also learn, you know, so much of this has been people working together, not just to keep yourself safe, but to keep people in our communities that we know are vulnerable safe. So people
Right.
with, you know, different types of medical conditions, or, you know, our senior citizens and elderly folks, and how we need to come together to really take care of them. You know, because again, if you look at I mean, of course, anyone can be affected by COVID. Anyone can actually die from it. But the vast majority have been people who have either some compromised immune system or who have been older. And I don't know. I think in general, I hope we don't lose sight of that we need to take care of our folks in our lives that are older.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I also think, you know, I think anytime you face a crisis and people step up, that when it's over, we can't forget those people. I mean, you know, to me, in my personal life, but especially here at work, there have been people who I guess you have been more like quiet leaders, or, you know, people that they don't need a lot of attention, that just sort of keep steady, keep going on every day. But man, when a crisis comes along, those are typically your people who are like right there by your side, stepping up. And I mean, I can say from my experience so far at Grafton, we don't forget that. You don't forget that.
Okay. Thank you all for tuning in. This is episode 1. Stay tuned for episode 2 coming your way. Kim, good talking to you.
Always good talking to you, Christopher. Take care.